welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And welcome back to another Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Well, if you've been following this little mini-series on our ESXi 8.0.3D, which became ESXi 8.03E, the freebie version of the VMware vSphere hypervisor, ESXi 8, which Broadcom kindly gave us for free a few days ago. But anyway, if you've been watching this mini Homelab series, just a quick recap on where we got to in part 6 was where we actually installed for the first time Microsoft Windows Server 2025 Data Center Edition with the desktop experience on our ESXi server. And here it is. And if you may remember, that is an ASRock rack motherboard. If you look back in the videos, you can find out what model we're using. But it's also commonly available as a Datto server as well on the bay. So you can pick these up as a motherboard, or you can pick them up as a full server for next to nothing on the bay. And this is the server that we were using. So in the latter part of the last video, after we'd actually installed Windows Server 2025, which took a while, and then we basically did all the updates, which took even longer. I spoke to you about the reason why we were doing Windows Server 2025 on that particular box, and I showed you how to enable PCI pass-through. And PCI pass-through, or I think VMware call it, or used to call it, they probably still do, VM Direct IO. But I think everybody else these days calls it PCI pass-through, because I think KBM and Proxmox, I'll say, stole it, and they call it PCI pass-through. VMware called it VM Direct IO. But basically a mechanism whereby you can pass through a physical PCI device. Not all PCI devices are supported. Don't get carried away and start thinking that you can, just because you've got a PCI device, you can pass it through to a VM. You can't. SCSI HBAs, or SCSI controllers, or host bus adapters, as we now call them, can be passed through. Some graphics cards can be passed through. Some USB controllers can be passed through. And it's quite common these days that you see people passing through NVMEs and SAS drives and SATA drives, etc., to things like Unraid. People pass through GPUs so they can play games in a virtual environment, etc. But it's been commonly used for many, many years. As many years as I've been involved with VMware vSphere, and that's a long while. And I think one of the first challenges that we came across very early on when people migrated to virtual environments, or the first thing they used to turn around and say, because they didn't want to migrate to a virtual environment, was, how am I going to add my tape drive? Yeah, just in that voice as well. And basically the answer was, oh, well, we can do that with PCI pass-through, to which there wasn't really any excuse then for them to move forward into a virtualized environment with a tape device or tape libraries. They're all supported. So this was the goal. And this is what we're going to look at today very quickly in part 7, because I'm just basically going to go back to a video that I did before about how we prepare our tape servers before we actually basically start installing the tape server components from Veeam Backup and Replication. As I mentioned to you before, the last problem really that you actually want to start getting into is adding your tape drive, adding it to your server, adding it to Veeam, and then Veeam gives you an error message and you don't really know where to be looking for that particular problem. So if I just maximize my, I'll tell you what, I'll just, there we go. So that's nice and big on the screen for you. So just to sort of kind of recap, because I've already, to speed this video up a bit, I've taken a few shortcuts and I'll mention what I've actually basically done. You may remember, if you've seen the previous video, when we followed the recipe that we often do to create tape servers. One of the things I forgot to do was actually install the tape driver for the tape drive. Yes, they do exist. And when we weren't running the tape driver for the tape drive, we actually basically ended up with a failed HPE library and tape tools test. It failed. We bobbed on the HP driver. Well, as you can see here, it actually basically says Hewlett Packard Enterprise LTO Ultrium-5 drive. So it's written by HPE. It's not written by Microsoft. So there's obviously some discrepancy between the drivers that causes a tape drive failure. Okay, so we put a new tape in the drive and we've run the tape test again. We've actually specifically run the long 18-minute LTO drive assessment test. And, you know, if you're purchasing a used LTO tape drive off the bay or Gumtree or Vinted or wherever, it's actually worth asking the vendor, the seller, have they actually basically got the report from the Tape Test Tools? If they're selling it as working, just a tip, there are many sellers, I'm not quite sure whether or not that they're maybe scammers is a bit harsh, but I'm not too sure whether or not that the sellers are believable in that they know that there's a problem with the tape drive, so they just basically bang it on eBay because they want to clear it and they want to get rid of it for a little bit of money, and then later on, you know, it's very, very difficult really with a tape drive, a lot of moving parts in it. And although some of them may offer actually returns, it's going to cost you postage to get it back to them. So just ask them, have you actually basically, can I see the report from the HPE library and tape tools test, please? Thank you. If they're accommodating, if the tape drive is as it says, fully working, then they should be able to provide you with the report and you can examine that for yourself and see whether it has any failures. Like, I'm not really sure what the definition of a working tape drive is, unless really that you've actually run the LTO assessment test on it. But anyway, a tip for you there. We've run, and just on that note, if you can get a working one and you get a working report, sometimes you can pick them up for pennies, because they just want to clear them, and sometimes they got no method to test them anyway. So we've run the text execution completed successfully again on our virtual server. I'm just going to prove, oh, that's interesting, that actually basically gives an analysis results. It's rather interesting there that it actually basically said that it had passed, and then there we get there was an unexpected error code on a received device. The latest test has passed and the drive is good. Okay, so we seem to have got a bit of a double whammy there. Could just be a glitch. We'll see now. We'll see when we move on. So anyway, and one of the other things I wanted to show you is the other thing that we've obviously done is we've added this machine to a domain. And the reason I said that we've added it to a domain, as I mentioned before, is so that we don't get any permission issues. If we log into the tape server, virtual machine tape server, backup and replication server, if we log in with a domain controller, if we log in as a local administrator, and we're actually trying to push out drivers and software from that remotely, and this is also part of the domain as well, then we're not going to get any local administrator permission based issues. The other thing that we've done as well is we've actually basically just turned on, I don't like this interface. We've actually basically turned on network discovery and file and print sharing as well, so that we've actually basically got the administrator share available to Cyrus Veeam 12 as well. And if I just show you Cyrus Veeam 12, so here we are logged on to Cyrus Veeam 12, and all I've done is done a // Cyrus-tape03 /C$ to check that we've actually basically got the correct permissions. FQDNs are in place here, so we're not using IP addresses, well, other than the RDP connection. I don't know why I actually basically set that up, to be honest with you. It was 141.245.138.103. Should be an FQDN. So following the recipe that I did before, and just to sort of kind of summarize and recap what we've actually basically done, we have passed through I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually go back to that machine. So what I'm going to do quickly is just going to go back to this machine, and I'm going to run msinfo32. So I just wanted to prove that if we look at the system manufacturer, VMware Inc., system model, VMware 20,1, system type, x86 based PC, BIOS version, VM Inc. So this is definitely a virtual machine that we're using. If I look at the hardware, let's have a little look at the storage components here and look at disks. Actually, we'll look at SCSI. So here we can actually basically see name Dell 6GBS SAS HPA. So I just wanted to show you, and we'll just basically have a little look at device manager. And if we have a look in tape drives, there we go. So I just wanted to show you that we are definitely running. There's no smoke and mirrors here. I've not done a bait and switch, and we're now running on a physical server and I'm RDP'd into it. You know, so we are actually basically using that virtual server that is actually basically hosted on ESXi 004, and we've got a bit of PCI pass-through going on. So we've installed a Windows Server 2022 virtual machine, 2025 virtual machine data center with the desktop experience. We've done that in previous videos. We've added the PCI device, which is a physical device, which is actually in our server, and we can see that there. Broadcom LSI 6, it's a SAS HPI adapter, and we've got a lovely active next to that as well. So it's actually basically in pass-through. That pass-through PCI is basically passed through to this virtual machine. We've then installed HPE Tape Tools. We've then installed the HPE EverStore tape driver. We've run the HPE Tape Test Tools. Basically, we've got a pass, although we do seem to have a slight discrepancy in a SCSI sense issue, but the tape LTO assessment has passed. We've then enabled file and print sharing, and we've added it to the domain. So that's it. So in the next video, we're going to add Cyrus Tape 03 actually to our Veeam backup and replication server. Then we're going to do some backups, and then we're going to do some restores in exactly what we did before, but we were using a physical server. Now we're using a virtual server just to prove that it can be done. Anyway, so I told you it was going to be a quick one. We're coming up to 13 minutes. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you like this video, then please thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you don't like this video, then don't like it and basically give a thumbs down and let me know the reason why. Anyway, I would like to see you again on the next video in part 7 when we complete this mini lab series on our Homelab using our ASRock motherboard or our Datto server. So once again, and all the best, and good night and goodbye.